Hey family, how's everybody doing? As you can see, I'm back on my feet today and dressed appropriately for the flood. Yes, I'm sweating, I'm outside, I'm doing a bit of grounding. I suggest you all do it. It may seem a bit weird, but I promise it does help the spirit. Just take your shoes and socks off if you can. Walk around in some grass and go in and wash your feet. You'll be all right, no worries. But I wanted to come to you today to just confirm and to let everybody know if they're feeling like I'm feeling. I just want to make sure and to affirm for you that you're not crazy. You are not crazy. This is the world that we're living in. We're currently living in the United States of America, which has completely been turned into a dystopian society. It feels like the bad guys are winning. At least that's how they want us to feel. There is some hopes as far as the judicial branch of our government holding on and holding folks accountable, but we know the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, if they have their way, it looks like they're signaling that this administration as well as the GOP are going to be successful in their endeavors. So again, we have to continue to speak up, speak out, and do all that we can to push back. So yeah, two things can be true. As they continue to make us believe and tell us that things are for our benefit, they're actually not. They're for our destruction. They're not. If we just take a short look at things that are most important to us today, let's talk about food, shelter, safety. Food, unfortunately, those poor babies down in Florida, it's been reported that they are suffering from terrible illnesses. I'm not sure if there's been any deaths, but they consume milk that had not been screened appropriately because, again, remember, there were major consolidations and cuts, layoffs and or rifts within our federal governments and the agencies that serve us, that screen our food and make sure that they are safe for consumption. They consume blood, pus, and some other bacteria, which is why we screen our food and test our food. When we look at shelter, the president told us himself, low-income housing. He's an expert on low-income housing. He's not building low-income housing. He's not building, quote-unquote, the slums. We understand that despite interest rate for mortgages being or having dropped a fraction of a point, home ownership is still too inaccessible to many of us. There are a lot of us that just cannot afford it. And at the end of the day, what good is it to have a mortgage and or to pay rent, have a lease, if you don't have a job to pay it? As we know, the jobs numbers came out. They are horrendous. And we know that the president has now decided, because those numbers were bad, he's going to shoot the messenger because he didn't like the message. So he fired the head of the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and now he has someone in position whom world-renowned financial gurus and Wall Street experts and all those people have said he is not the person for the job. Neither is he DEI and nor is he qualified, but he's in position, and they're just making an argument that, hey, well, he has a degree and he talked about finances. So therefore, he was a part of the Heritage Foundation as well. And so he's a part of the extreme right. So he's right? That's how it works. Yeah, no, not exactly. We also know, if those of us are paying attention outside of the federal government, massive layoffs there, in private industry, in corporate America, quiet as it's kept, the trickle-down effect is happening because the numbers they'll be skewed, they won't be accurate. In essence, they'll be cooking the books. I think we all understand that. They'll be cooking the books to reflect, positive net gains, et cetera, like great opportunity, but they won't be able to trust that it's real because, again, we know that when it's not favorable, it's not favorable, then what we'll do is we'll just fire that person and put someone else in charge who will give us favorable data. So there's that. So in corporate America right now, there's a hard time with investments. If you look it up anywhere, everybody's having a hard time getting investments for their companies. And any of us in corporate America or private industry, we know that we heavily rely on, depending on what industry you're in, you heavily rely on investments as well as federal subsidies and partnerships and things like that. So with that not happening, unless it's outside of like favorable partnerships, meaning, the administration approves of your messaging and everyone else that's affiliated with you and offer certain services to you, then you're probably not getting certain approvals, you're probably not getting certain advancements, you're probably not getting certain opportunities. As well as you now have investors who no longer feel comfortable investing because we don't know what any of our markets and industries are going to really look like. So they can't count on what the return will be. So they're not putting their money in America. They're not investing their money in America. And what happens when no one's investing? Stakeholders have to take a look at, well, here's what our debts are. Here's what we promised our investors. How do we get to that? This is our cash runway. Here are our milestones. You take a look at those things, and when you realize there's not enough, what's the first thing you have to take a look at? What is the largest line item on any business expense for operations? Human capital. It's us. It's the workers. So you got to let the workers go. So workers are losing their jobs. So how are we going to make money to pay rent, to pay for food? Oh, and then the cost, the tariffs come on. Stop playing. They told these people, you got kids that are going back to school. If you don't go and get the supplies before school starts, you can expect inventory to increase anywhere between 10 to 50% in cost. And remember, all of the tariffs are not in effect yet. So we can't afford food, we can't afford goods, we can't afford services, we can't afford housing. What happens when you can't afford a house? Let's talk about what's happening with the homeless in Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., they have given the homeless three options. You can either go to a shelter, you can commit yourself for psychiatric services, or you're going to go to jail. Those are the real options that you're given, despite what Caroline Levitt said. By the way, I was saying that before. Shout out to Gavin Christopher Newsom said it in his post, which I love. Chef's kiss for the Democrats fighting back. But yeah, so we all know, again, funding has been cut for all essential services for citizens and residents. Don't believe me? Just take a look. Take a look at the budget. They cut $1 billion from Washington, D.C. There were already shortages as far as housing, as far as shelters, having enough beds for the homeless, the unhoused, okay? Okay? Because not everybody chooses to be unhoused, right? So for the unhoused, when you arrive at a shelter, if you don't arrive on time, or if they are full and don't have any beds, you are turned away. There's a curfew. Imagine, even if you make it before curfew, but it manages to fill up before that because the lines are long, you don't have a place to stay. So then you find yourself out on the street, and if you're in Washington, D.C. right now, they give you those three options. So what do you think is happening? How are we getting to a point now where we're criminalizing the poor? Because if you are sane and you are well, but you just find yourself falling on hardship due to circumstances beyond your control, right? You can't control it. I have to admit myself for psychiatric services, or either I go to jail. Oh, that's right, because if I go to jail, then there's more of funding allocation, so you make more money. Oh, that's right. That's how the prisons make their money. That's where the funding's actually going in the U.S. as well, right? We have ICE. We got Alligator Alcatraz. Now they got another Speedway one that they doing. It's like our cartoonish, like, kids are going to start getting the t-shirts or something. Like, that's not good. We're not supposed to normalize this stuff at all. So you're criminalizing the poor. You're going to lock them up. The unhoused. And let's just be honest. Those of us who are working by the grace of whomever or whatever you believe in, those of us that are still employed, or even if you don't believe, by the grace of whatever keeps you employed, right? Even though they keep hollering middle class and working class, truthfully, how many of us are a part of the working poor? How many of us literally, if you miss one paycheck, just one, you're going to find yourself not being able to pay rent. You're going to find yourself not being able to pay your mortgage. You're going to find yourself not being able to buy groceries. You're going to find yourself not being able to pay your water bill. You're going to find yourself not being able to pay your utilities. I'll wait. I hope that everybody who finds themselves in that position actually responds on this post. That's my prayer. Do that so we can collecting some real data. How many of us are one paycheck from not being able to pay something that we need to be okay and to survive? Okay, so shelter, low income, not building that, not doing none of that. If you find yourself homeless, the likelihood you will end up in prison is high. It's high. The other piece is now we'll talk about safety. That's a joke, right? That's a joke, right? Because I don't understand what we're doing regarding safety. I do not. I absolutely do not. We are threatening to send federal forces into local, state, and district areas and cities and towns to occupy them, where we're really just going to ramp up arrests, more likely in communities of color. So we're trying to get up immigration numbers, so we're going to the brown communities, right? Also, hey, we try and make money from the prisoners, right? More bodies, more beds, more money, more money, more money, more money, right? So we're going to go to the low-income communities and police those, because there's crime there, right? Despite crime, again, happening at the same rate despite races, right? Cool. It's just about where you police and how much force you use to, exert and find a crime or implement or create one, right? That's what it is. Let's just be honest. So federal occupation of cities where crime statistically is down, historic lows, like 30 years. We're federalizing those areas. Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and bring in the National Guards if we can. We're gonna bring in Homeland Security. We're gonna bring in ICE. We're gonna bring in all these people because they got the big budgets anyway, right? $40,000 sign-on bonus. Right. You only gotta be 18 now. They just dropping all the rules. The numbers are so bad, y'all. They said we gotta be laxed. But at the same time, they said no DEI. We want qualified. But you're laxing all of your qualifications and requirements. Two things can be true at the same time. They could tell you it's good for you, but it's really bad for you. All you gotta do is pay attention. Washington, D.C. does not feel liberated at all. Just ask the man who hurled the Subway sandwich. Nobody feels liberated. It's oppressive. He's trying to normalize it. So guess what? When it comes time for midterms elections, if you're already used to these forces being on the grounds and these polling centers and areas start being harassed and people don't feel comfortable showing up to vote and all that, that's not their fault. They've been doing this. You already knew this was going to happen. We told you it was going to happen. It's crazy. Also, safety. Let's talk about national safety. You guys feel like U.S. is more secure than it's been? You feeling good about it? President's going to meet with Putin there today. Putin. He said that's his friend. So the bad guys that we weren't supposed to deal with are now our friends. And the good guys who are our allies, they're now our enemies. It's dystopian. You don't know what that is? Look it up. Definition. Dystopian. Dystopian society. That's what this has been turned into. I want to give the shout out, though, to those that are still fighting. So, Jasmine Crockett, Gavin Newsom, Jelanda Jones, Maxwell Frost. Van Holen's been doing some good stuff. I also appreciate also Brooks' turn. She's made a turn. She's making a turn. There's quite a few other people who are doing the what is the one Chris, I can't remember his name. He's awesome though, but I've seen him on quite a few things, and he definitely identifies as being Christian, but he is, I would believe, what I would call a red text Christian. He actually goes by the tenets and the spirit and the words of God, if you're into that stuff. So that's why he fights for the least of those, and he believes in checking those that have the most and are grabbing to have it all. So I definitely definitely, oh gosh, I wish I could remember his name right now, but it's escaping me. It's so much happening, guys. But either way, I just wanted to, like, bring that up, because what's most important to us, according to our needs and our hierarchy of needs, food, shelter, and safety is really important. And I have to say that just on the basic level, that's becoming more and more inaccessible for the majority of us every day. So whether you want to call yourself working class, working poor, or poor, whether you black, white, red, yellow, green, brown, it doesn't matter at this point. We're all in this together. And again, considering the fact that it's the 1% that has been rewarded and given the most in this administration off of our backs and from our funds, I just believe that it's the majority of us that have to stand up and continue to fight. Also, on the finance note, before I let you all go, there was a big executive order that came out this week regarding 401ks. So if you have a 401k, you need to start paying attention and looking into your actual investment managers, portfolio managers, because President has signed an executive order that's now allowing private equity funds to access our 401ks, which means because the market is doing so bad, again, funds, right? The market is doing so bad, they're losing so much money that they're desperate now. So they've been lobbying him for a while. They finally, I guess, gave him enough fancy things and promises and nice dinners and all of that, where they'll be able to access our 401ks and private equity funds. We all know these are not necessarily publicly traded companies that they invest in. So there's no insurance. It's like there's no backing from the federal government. A lot of times these are family-owned organizations. Shout out to Real Progressive for sharing that information. It was wonderful, but we have to now keep an eye, again, outside of the market, which is cantankerous. It's so up and down every day. But we also got to look to see like what they're doing with our money, who has our money and where they're putting our money and who has access to it. So yeah, that's the boots on the ground report this week. And I hope I tried to do my best to take what they will make so complicated and as the old folks would say, use 25-cent words to explain 5-cent concepts. So I hope that I'm offering some enlightenment in some way. But I want to continue to encourage us as well, because we have true freedom fighters out there who are doing it. We need to join them and support them in any way that we can. Your time, your talents, your strength, your funds, whatever you have, we need to figure out how to get connected, and we need to support these people. Because if we're not fighting, then at this point we're dying. This is where we are. Fight or die.